Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Gyle here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander epic. I say good afternoon for you chaps in the UK. It's probably more likely evening or late evening by the time you get to watch this, once it's finished recording, uploading and processing. But hey, at least I got an epic done today. I know how much you guys like them, so I won't waste any more time on this pointless little intro. It's going to be a ladder match, and it's going to take place on Seraphim Glaciers. So let's go planet side and see how these guys are going to get on. Of course, Seraphim Glaciers all very familiar with by now. Let's take a look at the players and their starting locations. Down here at the bottom right in the red corner, it's Adjuton. He's going Aeon, opening first land, second air, and as many T1 P-Gens as you can shake a pointy commander-shaped ACU weapon at. But that's perfectly understandable. He's going to want to build up that power as quick as possible and get as many planes in the sky in the early game as he can. Of course, it's the only way to effectively harass your opponent on Seraphim Glaciers in the early game. It's 20 by 20 map, far too big a distance to cover and hit your opponent with anything straight off the bat, with anything really other than some bombers. Oh, unless of course you're going Cybern and have access to Jesters. So anyway, that's the Aeon camp cornered. His opponent up here in the blue corner is BRS's DCCC97, or as we more affectionately know him, the Godfather. And I'm going to be referring to him over the course of this match as the Godfather, not to annoy him, but because I secretly hope that he will at some point change his name back to either the Godfather or something slightly more pronounceable for casting purposes. But we shall have to see. That's purely selfish, dude. You do what you want. Anyway, he's going UEF. He's opening first land, second air, and once again, a ton of P-Gens. Mass, of course, being no particular premium in the early game. There's plenty of mexes on this starting location. You've got your own 4 and your outer line ones, and of course this other base that's not actually populated, of course, in a 1v1. So that is the way it goes. And interesting to see another Aeon UEF match on Seraphim Glaciers. I think the last really big one, I've referred to it a few times. I'm not 100% sure actually if it was UEF, so I could be spouting rubbish. But the one I'm thinking of is Voodoo versus Rock. And why does it stick out in the mind? Well, people always slam the Navy for Aeon, and of course Navy for Seraphim Glaciers is a very important tool, judging by the amount of water that's on the map. But people slam Aeon, of course, because of that Exodus cruiser, or sorry, Exodus destroyer, and how easy it is to dodge the plasma bolts. One-on-one, it's an absolute nightmare. It's like a guaranteed lose if you're coming up against some other race's destroyer, but not so much, I find, on a large map like this where you're guaranteed to get large naval battles. Then you start to see the benefit of that very tanky, good ranged, good damage destroyer, because your opponent can't micro so well, and so forth. But we'll see how that works out and plays out in this match. Anyway, we're seeing those obligatory bombers now coming off the conveyor belt for Adjuton, 2 of them in fact, but the first one is about to bite the snow, so to speak. 1 down already, and the second one to follow it, just from that little cheeky interceptor hovering above Adjuton's base there. Finally, Adjuton spews out an interceptor of his own to try and deal with it, but I think he's going to lose that initial engagement as well. What a trolling little intie that is there from Godfather. 3 kills and a nice hit point a second regen going back on that. Very cheeky indeed. And I think a Chariot is quite optimistic. Well, he hasn't managed to finish off that interceptor. He doesn't want to get that shot down. That's a ton of NGs on board, down into the red. Just 100 hit points left. Oh, doesn't quite manage it. Very risky play indeed there from Adjuton. He got a whole lot of build capacity shot down, but there's another interceptor coming in there from Godfather. It was further north on the map, but thankfully Adjuton manages to land all of those engineers safe and sound. One of them looking a little bit beat up with just 20 hit points left on the clock, but he won't worry about that. The important thing is that all he lost was that Chariot transport and not all of the build capacity. So very nice harassment there from Godfather. But look at this. He's already made a grab for the northeastern island. And that would have been around the same time, I should think, that Adjuton was going for it. Of course, he was unable to get that first Chariot across and lands. He's going to have to ferry those across the water. But the second Chariot is en route. That seems to have at least 4 engineers on board, I believe. And that's going to set down nicely amongst the southernmost mass points on that island. And incidentally, guys, I'm still suffering slightly from a chesty, coughy, throaty thing, whatever you want to call it. As you many of you may know, I'm not a doctor. So if I cough and splutter my way through this cast, I apologize. I will do my best not to phlegm too much down the microphone, but if I do, I apologize in advance. But a nice grab there from Godfather, dropping 6 NGs to the middle island and immediately queuing up 3 land factories and a radar. So that's a nice early grab there from Godfather, and otherwise looking pretty even, but this could be a telling early maneuver. If he manages to grab this and hold on to it, it will give him a nice early advantage. It's one major secondary island apiece. But having said that, Adjuton's claimed both of the intermediary islands next to his starting location, and had been circling some bombers above this one next to Godfather's island, but is now pulling them off. Now he's realized the issue on the middle island and the fact that Godfather's already grabbed that. You can see the view he's got from his side of things, going straight over the top and not dropping any bombs on the engineers, going instead after the tanks. That tactic may change. He's managed to drop 4 of his engineers though onto the bottom section of that middle island. He's trying to throw together some point defense. One has got online. Now he's going to work on some land factories. Is that point defense going to stand the test of time? The question is, he's going up against 3 land factories and a few Lobos in production, I should imagine. Will be all it takes to knock out this little position. You can see he's got a couple in place already. That's the end of the eruptor. No more point defense there for Adjuton in the middle, and now the build capacity is under threat. And I think this is going to be a hold of the middle island for Godfather. I don't see that one factory standing up to the 3 up top. He might potentially get that second one online. He does. It's a little bit of an error there from Godfather, but I don't think it matters. The Lobos affecting too much critical damage onto those structures. Last of those Auroras, and you can see no more units being built from that second land factory. Adjuton is going to yield control of that island rather than expend any more resources trying to win a futile battle. Meanwhile though, over in the west, Aurora's incoming to that middle island, and Godfather trying to throw together some plasma cannons, but that build capacity is going to get taken out of the equation long before those PDs can get finished. And all 4 of those mexes are going to be casualties of war. Onward press those Auroras onto the main island there for Godfather. What's he got on the ground? He's already got 1 plasma cannon, and that's actually a fake formation there, the secondary one in the middle. So radar signature wise, that might fool Adjuton into thinking it's a slightly stronger position, but we already have access to T2 air. Wise maneuver there from Godfather, and he's spewing stingers out the wazoo. They're currently going via the second main island, and no, excuse me, sorry, they are transports. Talking absolute gubbins. I was thinking they were all the same. Of course, the icons are very similar. These are stingers up here, but there are transports over here. So there's some kind of drop that's going on from this top right island that's heading straight onto the main island, in fact, and a little bit of an air engagement kicking off over the top of Adjuton's base. Clearly, Godfather wanting to thin out the air, potentially allow him enough room to get those transports in. Of course, the problem is there are now swift winds in the mix there for Adjuton, so he's also made the transition to T2 air, but he's created just enough of a diversion for him to land all of these strikers onto the ground. However, there are now Spectres on the field. T2 gunships there for Aeon, and thankfully, although there are 1 or 2 archers in the mix, there are no T2 flak in there. So that Spectre should be able to knock out the archers. Well, there's only 1 of them. It's taken down 1 of the archers. Needs to get out that second one, though, before he gets shot down. And in fact, he's not going to manage it. And that has cost Adjuton all 4 of the northeastern mass points on this starting island for him. And he looks like he's about to start losing some more core T2 mexes as well. Godfather splits up the force. He's going to try and affect maximum damage. Adjuton brings his ACU in here to help thin out some of these issues. He's going to be able to take care of these bottom group of units, I think, but not before they take down that T2 mechs. That is a nice little drop. And how has that affected things? Well, it's allowed Godfather to just sneak ahead in the mass race. Also got a few stingers over here, the far western edge of the map. You can see Adjuton was going for a little bit of a grab here, having knocked it out with that band of Merry Auroras. He's got an engineer in play, but that is not going to be a hold there for Adjuton. Those stingers going to knock that aside without any difficulty whatsoever. And finally, it seems as though Adjuton has secured the ground on his main island. However, there are a bunch of Spectres that are now in danger from this air raid coming in from Godfather. Adjuton scrambles his own interceptors to intercept. I like what I did there, using the word twice and everything. But this is all very much expendable aircraft at the moment. Nothing too difficult on the field for either of these guys to worry about. And it looks like another little drop being launched here from Godfather. Godfather has managed to take the far eastern island. He's got a bunch of landed troops. Slowly taking that mass extractor out, though, with just the one Lobo. Spectre dispatched to deal with that. And those Stingers moved on to that second island of Adjuton's, second main island. Well, they're ill-advised there, probably get popped out of the sky by defending interceptors. But still not a great deal in it, especially considering that Godfather has the middle island. He has more map control, there's no doubt about it. But I think that probably points to Adjuton upgrading his core economy a little bit faster and a little bit better. The fact that he's managing to keep pace. And then we have a lull. Tons and tons of naval factories being spewed out by both of these players now. Very much more so, though, in favor of Godfather, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 naval factories of T1 and counting, plus of course the core T2 HQ back there. But now we've got a large merry band of beacon frigates there for Adjuton, and some Exodus joining the field as well. So both these guys have T2 Naval Factory HQ in place. And this is the time of the game where you expect whoever's made that early grab for the middle to cede control. More often than not on Seraphim Glaciers, most of the fighting seems to take place on this side down here, more so than anywhere up here in ladder section, purely because of the shape of this middle island. I think it's just a more natural battlefield here, and as such this island spends much of the game uninhabited. Usually, not every game is the same, of course. It's the beauty of this wonderful game of ours. But it's a hardy looking little fleet there from Godfather. T3 sonar platform in amongst these units, but also a bulwark shield gen and a few destroyers and cruisers in place as well. This could potentially be a little bit of an overextension in the early game there from Adjuton as we approach 19 to 20 minutes. But a cheeky little parking job there from Godfather. Not going to be able to do too much from that position. Look how pretty that is. You think this is 2007 graphics. Admittedly, we've altered a few things like explosions and stuff for the FAF project, but generally this is all core stuff that's been done a long time ago. It really does show you how far ahead this game was for its time. But this merry forward little vanguard of naval units there from Adjuton just getting a little bit squashed now by Godfather as the game tempo slows into the mid-game. And I would doubt any of these beacons are going to make it home. Getting popped one by one. Two valiant destroyers sitting there waiting for him. Down they go. And of course, the problem is if you get a naval battle or a naval engagement like that, more often than not, that immediately hands the naval advantage to, for instance, in this case, Godfather. Critical mass, of course, increasing. Adjuton throwing away the occasional units. He's going to try and counter now with a little bit of an Aurora push. He's brought all of these units off this island. He's got them inside the shield. He can focus that bulwark ship, which looks like he's starting to do. Knock aside the main defenses, but I think that shield ship's going to get out of there. And now, of course, a few more naval units joining the fray there from Adjuton. But once again, I don't think this is going to be any kind of major victory here for the Aeon forces. At least he managed to take that shield boat out of commission. Very much a core unit for UEF's Navy. However, another one has popped off the production line, and not only that, we have T3 naval factory in place, and still very much at the T2 phase down here for Adjuton. And that is a major tech mismatch. Battle cruisers rolling off the line for Godfather, and it's going to make life very difficult indeed for Adjuton to deal with. The Swift Winds, though, still having good success in the air against Godfather. Still working on transports. And actually looking at the ecos, astoundingly, despite being significantly ahead in map control, holding onto that middle island, holding onto this eastern island and denying this western one, he's definitely got the best part of about 65–70% of the map. Adjuton's actually ahead on mass. That is quite surprising. How are we doing on reclaim in the meantime? 10,000 reclaim there for Godfather and 13,000 for Adjuton. So Adjuton doing a little bit better on the reclaim side of things as well. So this shows you if your eco is good, it's not always about map control, especially not on the larger maps. But we now have T3 air for Adjuton. We also have T3 naval, and of course changes to NG mod mean that he instantly has access now to T2 across the board, having upgraded that for virtually nothing in comparison. Those upgrades for those regular T2 factories, of course, not the HQ, making life very much easier, meaning we no longer have tons and tons of redundant T1 factories. One of the many great additions to FAF. And this could be a little bit of a mistake from Godfather deciding not to press. He has missed the tech advantage that he had. There are now Omen class battleships rolling off the production line there for Adjuton. While not the best battleships in the world, he'll certainly be able to outrange those battle cruisers nice and easily. Can send those destroyers, the Exodus, in to tank, and he can sit back with those battleships and take pot shots at stuff. And deciding to have another little push here with these Auroras. but definitely not committing at this stage. A little air engagement, and it would be going terribly well for Adjuton with all of these swift winds, but unfortunately the presence of these cruisers here from Godfather just popping them out of the sky, so no major win there for the Aeon. I'd like to see him do something with this air advantage he's got. Switch up to some restorers or some strat bombers and go harassing. Could really make a mess of Godfather's core base with a few strat bombers. And I don't think there's a lot of anti-air in here either. There's a couple, or at least one flare there, Sam for UEF, but that's easily dealt with. But that's a nasty, nasty looking navy there for Godfather, and a cheeky forward naval factory as well. Looks like Adjuton's feeling brave enough to move forward a little bit, take a few pot shots at some of these guys. There's an awful lot of destroyers in the mix. Those battle cruisers primarying them, trying to get them out of commission as quickly as possible. All of Adjuton's folks at the moment working on those battle cruisers. And now just the one left in this main fleet. There's another one coming in, but question is, will it be enough? There are now asylums turning up as well, mobile shield gens there. That's going to afford some coverage, of course. Virtually nothing compared to those bulwark ships that the UEF have. But it can block a decent amount of fire nonetheless. And you get the feeling that this is the start of a long-running naval battle. It's hard to see how it's going to go in Godfather's favor now, and Godfather incidentally now well ahead in the mass game. This incursion by this fleet knocking out all of these mass points up here has taken its toll on Adjuton's eco, and Godfather pushing forward with all his frigates, getting them to absorb the damage, getting them, if possible, inside these asylums to knock them out of commission and give Adjuton's forces one less thing to hide behind. And meanwhile, Adjuton pushing out again with another pretty sizable band of Auroras going after this naval factory, whose sole purpose at the moment is to spew out engineers to get on the reclaim duty for this huge underwater mass field that's being created and expanded as we speak. 31 minutes gone in this game already. And 4 omens on the field. And it's strange, I could have sworn that this was going to go a different way, but actually Godfather looking a little bit light on the sea right now. He's got a ton of build capacity on that T3 factory, and he's now producing summits, UEF battleships, and there are 3 of them on the field coming into play now. See the epic range on those suckers. Have outrageous splash as well. This is the time when you expect to see this middle island get bulldozed from the coast. Of course, all of these mexes, T1, Godfather wise not to expend any income on upgrading eco in such a precarious location. That would be wasted resources. He's working on getting these ones up to T3 at the moment on this secondary island. All of these ones, though, on the peninsulas, they're still at T1. So not going to waste any time on that. But finally, we have T3 on the field, air-wise, for Godfather. 3 strap bombers circling over the eastern edge of the map. And this is what Adjuton, I think, really should have been doing to his opponent. They're coming in for a bombing run now. Will they be targeting mass? It looks like they might be. The Swift Winds take off to intercept. 1 of them down, 2 of them down, and now all 3 as the ASFs come in for a pass themselves. But still 3 T2, or potentially actually T3 mexes wiped out there. I'm not 100% sure. Certainly that's a hit Adjuton doesn't want to have to take. But you look at how things have changed on this naval battle. It has migrated from well inside Adjuton's waters up towards Godfather's end of the map. And it's now Summit v Omen, and you would usually always give it to the Summit, not least of course because they have the bulwark ships, but they're generally considered the best battleships in the game. I think they're right in saying they have the highest splash radius as well. And they just look freaking cool, let's face it. Could watch those firing all day. That just doesn't get old. Adjuton making a move now. I think this is the right idea. Getting in amongst these units there, very heavily bunched up, and he's got a lot of floating auroras with him as well. He can use those to take down the shield boats, but there are a ton of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take a look at how many he's actually got here. That's a lot of shield boats, 11 in this vicinity. But somehow Adjuton's managing to deplete them faster than they can replenish. And Godfather's beginning to lose summits. It doesn't look like there's a ton of stuff on the field here for Adjuton, but we're underestimating the amount of damage that's coming in from the Auroras as well. But a wave of Stingers turn up, going to go taking out the floating land units, I think, for the moment. But then they get retargeted to prioritize the battleships. Forward Omen class taking a lot of punishment, and I think he's going to make it back to base. That gets sunk. In come the ASFs, though, for both guys, and that's some bad micro coming out from Adjuton. Good pass there from Godfather. Of course, all of this taking place over the top of the odd cruiser from Godfather. I think it's fair to say Adjuton definitely had more ASFs, and it has allowed him to come out on top, but he's lost a lot of ASFs in the process. The Stinger's still alive and well. Adjuton needs to get his ASFs back and get working on these Stingers. In comes a transport of engineers on reclaim duty. Wants to get his hand on all this mass. There's tons of sunken battleships down here worth a veritable fortune. In come the ASFs finally to deal with the gunships. So many T2 gunships, that's outrageous. And I bet Adjuton's starting to regret not throwing the odd cruiser in there. Really could do with some anti-air. Obviously, Godfather had a decent enough idea of the composition of this fleet. Knew he wasn't facing any cruisers or any kind of flak at all. Consequently, he was able to utilize these stingers. And I think it's fair to say there are now more ASFs in the area now for Godfather as well. Adjuton tries to come in for a pass there, but promptly bugs out when he realizes he does not have air dominance. And still this merry band of stingers alive, but colossal power failure, I think, suddenly there from Adjuton. What's sucking up all his resources, but something is killing his power. Those shields blinking on and off, and the Omen's paying the price as this naval force for Adjuton continues to fall back to safer climes. That is a very, very effective gunship pass from Godfather. Wants to take out as many of these destroyers now as he can. Question is, as he started adding in cruisers to the mix, I don't think he has. He's got a fair old amount of air production going for T3 factories, it looked like. What have we got up here for Godfather? Well, considerably less. But we do have a ton of rover drones. People saying that the kennels not getting used that much. Well, here you can see being used in ladder. Of course, you're not going to use it in the smaller maps, but in a long, drawn-out Glacier game, anything is possible. And some people are going to hate me, some people are going to love me for saying it, but this is why Zepp vetoed Seraphim Glacier's removal from ladder, and I've got to say I agree with him. You've got to have some big chunky maps in there. SOPCOM isn't all about the short 10-minute 5-kilometer map games. There's so much more to this game than that. But my hell, the game has changed, all because of this massive change of air control over towards Godfather's favor. He's been able to keep this massive horde of gunships alive. They've beaten back this naval force and have now systematically wiped out all of the eco on this second island, and they're going after another island. They're going to get caught out though by these ASFs from Adjuton. They can come in, pick all of those off, and then bug out actually before Godfather's ASFs have time to respond. That was a little bit of an error there from Godfather, but he's still got a ton of gunships to play with, and that is a dead island there for Adjuton. He is now down to just the one core island and the single expansion island. Adjuton throws away a few ASFs there, trying to do something. I'm not even sure what. I guess he got the drop on some of those. A little bit of micro might have been a decent trade, but it's not helping him get back on top of things. But still, Adjuton only giving up the best part of around 25 to 30 mass to his opponent. And now Godfather hovering right over the top of Adjuton's base, and there's a few ascendants kicking around here, and there's ASF's taking quite a lot of flak, and I don't think this is a wise decision to bring these gunships in when he knows there's flak here. All Adjuton has to do is move his flak. He doesn't even have to move his flak now. Those gunships flying directly overhead and get absolutely brutalized. That is a definite error. He should have brought them around the back here, gone for these mass points up top. Of course, I have the benefit of vision. It's easy for me to say, but he definitely would have noticed if he'd have taken the time to look with his ASFs there that there was too much flak for him to risk those gunships, and now that very sizable force of gunships have been whittled down to just a handful. Still, however, he's knocked out all the mexes on this side island now, There is a single island of activity there for Adjuton, and that is it. Things not looking good for him at all right now. And once again, of course, Godfather managing to push his way into Adjuton's naval space, his waters. And with the amount of bulwark shields, that's going to be a tough cookie to crack. Things not looking great right now for the red corner. Strat bombers piling up on this island. This could be an early snipe attempt perhaps from Godfather. It's nice to see these kennels being used though. He's got an absolute ton of them. He hasn't bothered to upgrade any of them. It's just gone for the basic ones, but colossal spamming out of ASFs from Godfather. He's not wanting to relinquish control of the air. Ambassadors coming in over the top of this navy, dropping a few bombs on some of the battleships. Adjuton dispatches some ASFs to try and intercept, but Godfather manages to squeeze his ASFs in between his strat bombers and his opponent's ASFs, keeping them those strats safe for the moment. In comes Adjuton. This is going to come down to Micro. He's managed to get in behind Godfather's ASFs, and that's some good Micro right there from Adjuton. Still though, I think potentially there's too many ASFs on the field for Godfather, but the strats coming in now from Godfather, going for the main base. This could be very nasty indeed. He's going after mass points. T31's dropping all over the shop, and you think about how successful Godfather has been at reducing Adjuton's opportunities to eco. He's now going after the core mass points on the main island as well. He just thinks if he can bottle him up enough, the naval production will slow down and he'll manage to break through. But look what's happened in the meantime. What on earth has gone on? Where is Godfather's navy? One summit left, and all I can see is mixed up T1 and T2 boats in the background fleeing for their lives. A few shield boats back here, but somehow Adjuton has blitzed through this navy. I don't even know how that happened. But more power to you, and this is going to be really important. He needs to get in here and cause as much damage to the main island as he can. And somehow now he's got this advantage up here. He needs to get back on this island and take it back, and he's looking pretty good on the air down here as well. Yes, there are a couple of stingers down here, but plenty of ASFs in the area. And look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4 omens now sailing in to Godfather's main harbour. Down goes one summit, another one up here, probably not going to fare too well. Lots of Exodus blocking him in, which is kind of a contradiction in terms, I know. Boom, baby. Down it goes. ASF's having a small battle over the top of these omens. In come the stingers, going after the destroyers at the moment. But Adjuton, did you push too hard, too fast? Did you throw away your advantage? It's very, very hostile territory indeed. You've still got a decent amount of HP on most of these omens. Just this one here is looking pretty peaky on around 5,000 hit points or so. And he manages to knock out most of those stingers. There's one ambassador back here is looking very unhealthy indeed, but goodness me. Adjuton being very cavalier with his ASFs indeed. There are more hidden back here from Godfather. What he needs to do is he needs to get these omens over here and start knocking out this build capacity around this T3 HQ. And you can see the rover drones being flown across to that factory. It's one of the core benefits, of course, of the kennel, which is why they're so expensive. compared to Hive's. Their range effectively infinite. Down goes another summit, and now he needs to prioritize all this build capacity. If he can stop these battle cruisers and battleships from appearing, he might be able to hold on to this. You can see more reinforcements coming in from Adjuton, slowly making their way across the field. Down here, though, we have two T2 factories, so Godfather is starting to expand, and the longer Adjuton leaves it to retake this island, the harder it's going to be. But he's concentrating right now on trying to effect a killing blow. In come the ASFs and wipe out almost all of the rover drones. That, of course, is one of the drawbacks to the kennels, and instantly they start having to replenish themselves. That takes a little while. In the meantime, of course, that's some build capacity that has been taken out of the picture, but a critical error at the moment. He's focusing on the factory and then the boats. He needs to take out the build capacity first. I think this is a mistake. He has taken out some of the engineers, but not enough of them. And I think the strength of this attack is slowly petering out. But he's managed to get on top of the air game in this very quickly indeed, and that's what's allowed him to push up with this navy. Very nice work indeed. Another ton of Exodus escorting this Omen battleship. Those Stingers finally taken out. And the question is he going to make a transport? Yes, he is. Those are transports. He can pick up some build capacity and finally get this back under control, get some map control back, and maybe even think about making a drop. There's not a lot on here defending it. There is a T2 HQ up here and the odd mongoose. Certainly that could get knocked aside. Even just the odd battleship or something dispatched up here could bombard these mexes from afar and knock them down. But look at this. Virtually all of the T1 factories have been taken out there. And battle cruisers just not having enough punching power at the moment to deal with this Omen. DC throwing together a bunch of SAMs, wondering if he's concerned about a Solace snipe or anything like that. He is very close to the shoreline. I'm sure if he was concentrating, he'd be able to stop that. But now, firmly aware of the expansion happening on this side of things. That's a ton of T2 engineers, and look at this, they're busy erecting defenses as quickly as possible. Lots of flak going down, and lots of triads queued up as well. And that attack finally running out of steam there from Adjuton, but very impressive how he managed to get himself out of hot water. He hasn't even found the time to rebuild those mexes on his core island. But he's now yielding 100 mass deficit, Adjuton, to Godfather. And he needs to rectify that immediately, because that is an unsustainable deficit he's running. That is unacceptable if he wants to come out of this game with anything other than a loss. He's going to have to try and wrestle back some map control. He needs to expand. He needs to grab some mexes. But still an impressive looking navy nonetheless. It's going to take some time for Godfather to build up. But it looks like we're entering another lull in activity. Million T3 PGens being spammed up there from Adjuton, and the strategic missile launcher as well, about 40% done and then abandoned. But those transports having been built earlier, they have the ferry icon set up. Where to exactly? Actually just up here, so that was more of a reclaim duty. You can see all these engineers. It's probably what was ferried up there before. How has it affected the mass income on the reclaim side of things. Has that allowed Adjuton to stay together? Well, 129,000 mass and climbing against Godfather's 145,000 mass and climbing. So actually, Adjuton's been losing on the reclaim. He's floating a ton of mass as well. He currently can't spend it fast enough, it would seem. But the focus then shifted back onto that nuke launcher once again. And that's coming up to around 50% complete. But I really do think he needs to expand. This can't go on. And all that's going to happen now is Godfather is beginning to turtle. You can see he spammed up a ton of clink hammers here. It's only underneath a single T2 PGen. So it is easily taken out if he so desires. But holy moly, that's a lot of ASFs. Adjuton chasing down Godfather's fighters as best he can, as my computer buckles under the strain of that outrageously large air fight. But look at that. That is a very impressive display. If China did displays of air dominance, this is what it might look like. And off he flies before taking any more fire from that row of flayers there. But the unacceptable truth, or the unfortunate truth here for Adjuton, is that T3 naval production is far too efficient at the moment up in this corner, and the longer this goes on, the worse things are going to become. He needs to crack this second island. He needs to do it now. We do have a wave of restorers incoming, heading over to that island as we speak. What is his target? He's going to go after the build capacity and the outlying mexes at the bottom first. That is going to be an easy attack. No questions asked there. No issues for him whatsoever. The tough part is going to be the shielded base up here. However, though, power issues ensue at the moment for Godfather as we pass the 1 hour mark in this game. Congratulations, it is officially epic. But you knew that already. In come the restorers. Their trajectory has changed. He is going straight after this base. His timing couldn't be better. The shields blinking on and off. The only problem is, of course, is there's more flak that Obama has speechwriters. That's outrageous. The restorers just tumbling out of the sky. And that's a lot of eco from those restorers. That's just getting pummeled. Build capacity switching to build up another shield gen. The minute that that one collapses, a lot of those, or a couple of those air cleaners have gone down, but those restorers, that is not a cost-effective way to eliminate this base. More incoming, though. It might be successful if he can keep the amount of restorers coming in that he's doing. The trouble is, all these shield gens blinking on and off, blocking all this fire, down to around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 air cleaners in play. Needs to knock out these shield gens while he still can. But the wave of ASFs come in, finish off the last few restorers. A little bit optimistic. He drops some engineers onto the island. In come the ASFs from Adjuton, but Godfather has long since bugged out. Mission complete. Make much more sense just to park a couple of battleships on here and let them do the rest. Maybe even get a missile ship on the scene, get them in place, and get them to take it down. Missile ships will ruin your day. But look at this. tons and tons of battle cruisers, and now a few summits joining the party as well. Neptune's in front. Shorter range, lower value, high damage though. Good for taking out just about everything else. One Omen down, 3 left. A lot of restorers en route. They can really do some damage in here, but there's a ton of governors back here, and they will cause outrageous amounts of hurt to those restorers if they get in range. And you can see Godfather moving them in as we speak. They make contact with the first Neptune. One pass takes it out of commission, and then they focus on the next. But now those governors in place. He needs to, if he wants to stick around, he needs to get those restorers to take out the governors. He's not making the same mistake twice though. ASF's on hand to cover the gunships. He is still maintaining his attack though on the Neptunes for the moment, giving his navy, or what's left of it, one single battleship room to breathe. Now another air fight, and still it looks like Adjuton has the numbers in the air, and it's really what's kept him in this game. This should be over by now. I thought he was going to be able to wipe out the rest of them, but Godfather gets away. But still, 1, 2, 3, 4 governors in play, kicking 7 shades of excrement out of those restorers. And Adjuton actually picking up a couple of mexes on that middle island. I hadn't noticed that. But at least he's got something back here. He needs to build up a base, take it out or something, get in a missile ship, finish this off, and get back the rest of these mexes. This is outrageous deficit he's running. 150, 160 mass down on his opponent. Things not looking good at all. And still, despite that small reprieve, he's bought himself, once again, that navy looking formidable. Lots of shielding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 summits sitting at the fringe of those shields, and more on the way. Adjuton having replenished his stock slightly. 1, 2, 3, 4 omens, but coming in with another wave of restorers, and then backs off. That's an easy kill as far as I'm concerned. He should have committed to that. Where are the governors? Well, they're slightly further back here. He can certainly get in amongst these ships and pick out a few. Air damage from the summits, very light indeed. Tank that all day with those restorers, and that's one of the summits down for sure. ASF's incoming from Godfather, but then backs off again, too concerned about Adjuton's air wing. Restorers continue with their mission, going after the next summit. That goes down as well. And now the next. ASF's, this time, are they going to commit? Sort of get in amongst the mix. In comes Adjuton's ASS, but actually that's a lot of ASFs on the field now for Godfather. This is going to be close. Of course, the restorers offering a sizable advantage in the air, but I think Godfather might have the numbers. And of course the governors in the mix as well, and that's a colossal win in the air now for Godfather, finally having the numbers to affect a win in the air. And that is advantage over for Adjuton. And that could be game right there. And finally we're seeing some missile ships on the field from Adjuton. Where is he planning to take them? They're being currently directed up here. He doesn't need them here. He needs them over here. He needs to take out this forward base that now has a bunch of clink hammers and tack missiles there as well, preempting a potential base build and turtle war between two potential positions, or at least using it as an effective counter to battleship fire. I'm surprised though that Adjuton hasn't tried to stockpile some T3 land and gone for a push down here. We've got a bunch of triads up here, but not much else. How is that nuke launch doing? It's finished, but you can see how bottled, or bottomed out I should say, Adjuton has been en masse. That must have finished a while ago, and that missile looks like it's about 3% done, if that. And now the missile ships get into range. There are no buzz kills in here, but even if there were, you need a ton of them to try and counter the missile ships. The rate of fire is just outrageous. Such an awesome unit. Can't believe I actually read someone on the forums a while ago suggesting they need a boost again to take them back to some of their older values. I really don't think they do. I think they're an excellent unit as they are. Incredibly difficult to repel if you don't have a naval advantage. The only real recourse is to get in with some gunships in amongst the mix and take them out if you can't get in there and do it with ships or some torpedo bombers. And Godfather acknowledging the length of the game. Well, it's down to you to end it. You have been ahead for some considerable time, and 140 odd mass ahead at that. More missile ships rolling off the conveyor belt. Adjuton not looking like he's got anything really up his sleeve. He's just continuing to press the naval game, hoping for some major advantage on the ocean so he can start pummeling this forward base. But oh my god! Attach a rocket to my scrotum and call me Susan. That, my friends, is a Mavor. How unbelievably awesome that is. Godfather, you're my hero. And look at it, it is nearly done. 6,500 hit points out of 8,000, and that will be a game ender right there. Literally, there is very little that can stand up to a Mavor, but certainly not a base with minimal shielding. Adjuton will get eaten by that sucker. I can't believe how well Godfather has managed to do and how quickly he's thrown that together. Look at it go. The income is quite honestly disgusting. Outrageous amounts. 69, 70,000 power coming in. 600-700 mass coming in with the reclaim, of course, and that is online erection. That's just the coolest thing in any game ever. You just don't see them very often in play. You really don't. 1 hour and 14 minutes on Seraphim Glaciers. It's taken Godfather to get that in play, and that will now proceed to wreck Adjuton's base, one shell at a time. That's just too cool, man. But anyway, there's a battle going on, so we should probably have a look at what's happening. But the small nuclear shells, as they land, cause catastrophic damage, buckling shields in just a couple of shells. Of course, the rate of fire is excellent. Boom! And this will really start to thin out what's left of Adjuton's eco. Still, the naval battle continues, and that's actually a lot of omens on the field. You can't help but not be surprised, though. I mean, If you're going to get a Mavor online, that's going to take most of your mass, so is it any wonder that naval production has bottomed out for Godfather? Finally, this base has been taken down. One shield gen left and a bunch of clink hammers. But that would allow him to get back in. But the problem is there is now a Mavor online, and that nuke launcher, having got nowhere near completing a missile, is now done and dusted. You see those small mushroom clouds there, the small nuclear shells that the Mavor fires, takes out huge quantities of build capacity every time a shell lands. Boom! Down goes the air factory headquarters, and now it would seem Adjuton no longer, of course, has access to build ASFs, having lost that HQ. And once again, those omens get in amongst things, but he's going to have to do something pretty special. If he can bring the missile ships up, he could potentially knock out the Mavor. He's got, how many missile ships has he got? 1, 2, 3 missile ships, 4, 5 back here. If he could bring them up together at the same time and have a nice coordinated strike through here, he would tear through these shields. These are all T2 shields, remember, and there aren't any buzz kills in this area at all. No TMD, but there are a lot of T2 engineers that could build those very quickly, and of course he's got a bunch of rover drones that could erect those even quicker still. And indeed, the missile ships getting into range, and what are those? I think those are buzz kills. TMDs being lined up. It's going to take a lot of them to repel that. He doesn't want to lose them, these ships, to any kind of gunship strike or anything like that. He has managed to lose those omens up there at the top, but he's got a lot on his mind. His base is on fire. Mavor shells repeatedly landing in key areas. Now he's going after the Navy. Huge quantities of build capacity getting blown up there. And you can see those missile ships converging on the Mavor, depleting some of these shield gens, but the trouble is lines of buzzkills being spammed up now as we approach 1 hour 20 minutes in this game. If he had a couple of omens down here still, he could have gone after the build capacity with them and slowed up the production of these buzzkills, maybe taken out a few with the splash. He's trying to get away from this fleet now from Godfather that's moving in, but he's lost one missile ship already, 2 more in jeopardy. He's managed to maneuver one of his omen battleships in between, but I don't think Godfather's going to be too concerned about it. He's going to go straight after those missile ships, needs to take them out of commission, but now a large air engagement. This is definitely going to come down to Micro. Who is going to come out better? Adjuton bugs out. Godfather pursues. Adjuton turns. And it looks like Adjuton is getting his butt rinsed. Oh dear. Introduced to a B-Day. There he goes. And that is definitely, surely, all avenues of attack exhausted for Adjuton, who's moved his commander over here. He's trying to rebuild Eco out of the way from the incoming fire from this Mavor, but I'm pretty sure it's all a futile gesture now, as a bunch of broadswords have free reign to go after the remaining battleships there from Adjuton's navy. ASF's running cover from any potential fighters incoming, but of course there won't be if it wasn't at least bad enough that the HQ had been taken out. The other factories have been taken down too, and Adjuton throws out the GG and control keys his commander after 1 hour 21 minutes. Outrageous. I cannot believe it. Who says game enders don't get built in ladder? That's outrageous. beautiful to see. Well done, Godfather. Very impressed. And well done, Adjuton, to be fair. He did outrageously well to stay in that. Very nice naval play indeed. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, anyway, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.